the webinar. You might hear somebody say, nope. And if you've just arrived, I'd like to welcome you to today's sneak peek webinar. How did you find us? Tracking today's multi-touch rental journey, which will be presented in its entirety at Apartmentalize. Are you ready to Apartmentalize? The industry's largest and bestest event convenes in just 3 short weeks in San Diego, June the 13th through the 16th. We're looking forward to the Southern California city with the most perfect weather in the country. We expect nearly 10,000 industry players to join you for networking and learning opportunities. Today at my office, I'm joined by my awesome colleague, Megan Pafiri, from our marketing and communications team. Hey, Megan.
Hi, Clark. How are you guys? Hi, everybody.
Say hi to everyone.
Welcome, and we're excited for the upcoming conference. As Clark said, we wanted to present to you a couple of things that will be happening on site. The first is Open Space Series, which is a brand new learning experience we're really excited to bring to you guys. We're looking for an opportunity to bring more peer-to-peer discussions and idea sharing and things like that. So the Open Space Series is led by a facilitator, and we have different topics. You'll see we have marketing, leasing, technology, affordable housing, management and leadership, and emergency preparedness. And so you'll see on our schedule the times for those, and we welcome everybody to come by, and you will have the opportunity for an hour to meet with small groups and interact with other peers. And the other item we have is our conference app. So if you've downloaded it before, then you know you already have it on your phone, but if you haven't yet, you can download our app by searching National Apartment Association on either the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, and download it on your phone, and you can find the conference section under events. We will have an app, an NAA app help desk on site, so if you have any issues and you need any assistance, you can certainly go by to see them. If you do have the app already on your phone and you're having any issues, we do encourage you to reinstall it, as we've made a lot of upgrades very recently with the login to make it much more seamless and user-friendly. So that might be a help if you're having any issues with it. And with that, I will turn it back over to your team. Hope to see you guys there.
Thanks, Megan. I'm really excited about this Open Space series. We've been working really hard on it. It's actually a chance you can sort of show up at affordable housing and then really choose to talk about your very specific issues with the folks who come together in that moment. It's very spontaneous, and I think it makes a really good interaction. Really excited about that. Now it's my pleasure to introduce to you our esteemed industry expert for today's discussion. Holly Beckman is the VP of Marketing and Leasing and Operations. She's responsible for directing teams, responsible for a team of marketing coordinators charged with outperforming the highly competitive DC market that I live in. Holly is hands-on from concept design and strategic planning, marketing analysis, through construction, lease-up, and stable operations of assets. Israel Karanungan, I cracked that.
You got it.
Israel Karanungan. He's the Senior Director of Marketing for Greystar. He's responsible for national marketing initiatives and vendor relations, as well as spearheading the marketing efforts for Greystar's entry into the international market. Mia Wentworth is the Marketing Director at Monarch Investment and Management Group, where she has overseen marketing efforts as the company has doubled in size in the last 3 years. Very impressive. And last but not least is Esther Bernardi. She's the Vice President of Marketing for Yardi. With over 30 years of experience in the industry, she serves some of the industry's best and brightest multifamily firms. Esther's our moderator for today, so we'll turn the floor over to her. Hey, Esther.
Hi. Wow, I can't believe I put the over 30 years in my bio. When you said it, I thought, surely I didn't submit that, but it's true, and I guess I did. Well, today we're talking about lead attribution and lease attribution, such a hot topic in the industry. Let's start off by talking about what it is, just to begin with. Attribution is a set of rules that gives credit for sales or conversions, or you might say credit for leads. And so we want to talk a little bit today about where we've been, where we are now, and where we're going as an industry. So let's go ahead and move forward and just tackle the first question. Where are we now? And I'd like to start with Israel on this question. Israel, what's the current state of lead attribution? Where are we today?
Yeah, we're in the middle of very exciting times, actually. You know, I think we're in the middle of this evolution on lead attribution, where we originally came from. Really, no way of tracking anything. It was the good old, you know, how did you hear about us question. Then we moved into a few years later, we moved into phone tracking. If you guys, you know, remember it now, and then all the lead management systems came out shortly thereafter. Where we can track various types of leads, whether it's phone calls or email or somebody filling out a contact us form. But it's always been, as of today, you know, we've always worked on this single attribution model, which is, you know, where we, you know, it's a first touch attribution basically, right? So where we originally capture that lead is what gets the credit for when it eventually turns into a lease. And that's because of the technology that we've been using the last few years. That's, you know, that's what's available to us. And I think, you know, moving forward, there's some exciting technology coming up that, you know, will, you know, move us into another, you know, level of attribution, which is very exciting.
Yeah, you kind of walked us down memory lane a little bit, and I think that's good because we've appreciated more recently, say the last, you know, 8, 9, 10 years that we've had the ability to at least track a single source. But you did remind us that there was a day when it was 100% the strategy of hope. We hope the leasing agent asks the question, and we hope that the customer remembers where they actually found out about us. And so we've come a long way from there. Mia, though, I think you feel like 100% of apartment managers may not be tracking, even using today's first touch attribution model. Share with me what you've talked about in the past on this.
Right. So, I mean, here at Monarch, we do have a lot of properties who are using, you know, the best technology, but we still have a couple of regions who are strong holdouts. We have one region who's still just using a call tracking only system, so they're not tracking their digital, the emails and the leads that come in that way. So, you know, if you're sitting in the audience and you're thinking, oh my gosh, how far behind am I? Don't worry, we're testing the cool new technology, but we've still got some ground to cover ourselves here. So.
All right, so right out of the gate, we know most multifamily marketers and managers are using some sort of tracking system. But could be important for everybody to hear that you don't want to let hope be your strategy. Even if you're tracking phone calls, if you're letting those digital leads go untracked electronically, you're leaving hope as your strategy. So we should at least get there to start with. But, you know, today we are typically tracking a single source. And while most systems, that's the way they track, I think we would all agree that customers go through more than one source before they find your communities. Would you guys all agree that you can assume that customers go through more than one source? Yeah, I think most of the industry would agree with that. Let's move forward to the next slide. And Holly, can you give us an idea of what a customer's journey, what a renter's journey might look like, and you know, where they might go before they actually arrive on your front doorstep?
Sure. And, you know, I think all of us are just proceeding along and becoming more sophisticated marketers. So most of us are out there using some sort of AdWords, or at least implementing some sort of SEO to make sure that we're showing up on Google, either via an ad or at least be placed in the search return after an inquiry. But we all know that some of the larger companies like the ILSs are pretty high up in the search. So it's more likely that after a customer searches on Google, they're going to end up on one of the bigger ILSs, and God bless them. So, you know, they're going to go through, they're going to send a bunch of inquiries out to a couple of different communities in the area where they want to be, typically 5 to 10 different apartment communities. And whoever returns back an actual response to them, immediately gets a leg up. But the customer is probably going to go ahead and check out a couple of review sites, maybe more than one. They probably are going to apartment ratings, but they're also probably doubling back to see what Google says on their reviews, and maybe even Yelp. And, after that, like most customers, they're at work doing this and they have to get some actual work done. So they get offline or off screen completely. And if you're doing any remarketing, maybe you're hitting them back up on Facebook later while they're on their phone, while they're binge watching, The Crown or something. So they finally remember that, oh yeah, I've got to apply for an apartment or at least make an actual appointment. So from there, they're back to your website, and then they're actually connecting with you and coming into tour.
And now we know what Holly likes on TV, because she mentioned binge watching The Crown, right? As opposed to Game of Thrones. Nice,
Yeah.
Holly. What would you say what's your guess on the average number of marketing impressions that a customer might go through before they end up leasing an apartment?
We did a survey, a renter survey with Apartmentalize, and we found that 72% of our renters actually went to a minimum of 3 sites. 40% of them actually went to 7 sites or more. But what's even crazier is Think with Google did a study recently with looking at people who are buying cars. And I just found it fascinating because car shopping is so similar to the apartment hunting process. And they found a consumer that had 900 digital touch points before she purchased the car. And 139 of those were actual Google searches. And so people think they can count back and go, oh, I went to this brand or I went to this site and this site, but you don't know how many times they're repeating that process over and over again. And after going through a hunting process recently myself for a house, I know that's true. I repeated the same search over and over again, looking for different results.
That's really interesting, some lessons that we can learn from other industries. Mia, Holly was talking about the journey a little bit. Why does the journey matter? And we can roll forward. There we go.
Yeah, well, as Holly mentioned, we've gone from being exposed to maybe a couple hundred ads a day in the 70s to some estimates say up to 5,000 ads a day today, which is just crazy in our digital landscape. And you pair that with the fact that our attention span is waning, and due to ad overload, people are paying a little bit less attention. So the marketing rule of 7 really applies here. The first time people see your brand, they probably don't even notice it. Maybe by the second or third time, it's becoming a little bit familiar to them. But it probably takes at least 7 touch points before they're ready to make a buying decision. And this is really kind of rooted in psychology. It's that familiarity, and it's that people trust things that they're familiar with. So subconsciously, as a marketer, the more impressions we can get in front of them, the more likely they are to trust our brand. And when the time has come that they're ready to make their buying decision on where to live, they're going to come to us. And it's just, it's hard to track the whole journey with the software that we have right now.
Yeah. So if they're finding you in multiple locations, we probably need to be tracking more than one source. I mean, you just said it can be hard today for most people, but we need to be tracking more than one source. Israel, I've heard you, I know you're a big sports fan. Anybody that knows Israel well knows he's really into sports. And if you follow him on any social media account, you know that his whole family is really into sports. I've heard Israel make some analogies about lead tracking and sports. Can you share a couple of these analogies with us?
Yeah, absolutely. This slide, shows 2 of the all-time greats in sports. Magic Johnson obviously played for the Lakers for many, many years. And then Wayne Gretzky is probably the greatest player of all time in hockey. But what made them really great was their passing ability, right? That they create these opportunities for their teammates, so they get credited for assists. So, in sports, the assist is as important as scoring the basket, right? And you get credit for an assist if it turns into a basket. And there was actually a study by BYU on this, where they looked at the importance of teamwork and assists in the context of the games. And what they're saying and what their findings was that if a team passes the ball more, which leads to more assists, they have a higher chance of winning than a team that may have one or two players scoring, 40, 50 points a game. So the analogy here is for multi-touch is it's not just the basket, or it's not just what made that conversion. It's all these originating sources that makes the quote unquote pass through the other source. So I think that's equally important in the world of attribution, because as we discussed earlier, consumers are super smart now, and technology is easily available to them, where they can literally go not just from device to device, but also from source to source with great ease, and that's what they're doing. So we want to be able to understand this journey that they're doing, to lead to the final, conversion of that transaction.
Yeah, so other industries have kind of understood this for a while, that it's not just the one that is, it's not just the first touch, it's not just the last touch, it's the entire journey. Holly, you really studied up on lead attribution models from other industries. I know you've written blog articles about it. You've been one of our big industry experts and voices on this. Can you walk us through some of the attribution models that you've seen outside of the multi-industry, and just explain them for us, starting here with the linear model?
Sure. So we all get that our current model is the first touch attribution, which gives 100% of the credit to the first source that someone either calls or emails from. With a linear model, the approach is that every single source gets equal credit. So if there were 4 different sources that the prospect contacted you from, each of them would get 25% of the credit for the lease. If you want to hop to the next one, Clark. Time decay model is a little bit different. And this kind of goes to the thought process that the source that actually created the conversion is the one that should get the most credit. So in this case, if Google was the last touch that then created created the customer contact with you, then they get the most credit. All of the other sources still get some amount of credit, and it just lessens as it gets further and further away from the conversion. So the U-shape model is, falls under the argument of the first touch really is very, very important, because if they don't hear about you in the first place, none of the other touches actually ever occur. So your brand awareness is extremely important, as is the actual conversion. Everything else is still gets a little bit of credit, but those are the 2 that actually really matter. The W shape takes it a little bit further down the line. So it breaks up. It says, yes, brand awareness is really important, but that's just, you're actually, like Mia talked about, that's just the first step. They may not even really realize who you are yet. That first contact where they talk to you or reach out to you, that's really important. But the third one that's really, really important is the sales or the opportunity. So this is, in our case, would probably be like when they actually hit your leasing center for a tour. So that was considered the opportunity. So those are the 3 most important of the whole journey, if you will. And then we know that in our marketing or in our space, we are actually, the marketers are holding the prospect's hand almost the entire way through the journey until the application, or what we would call the close. We hand off the prospect for the tour to the leasing agent, but it's almost then like we take the prospect back, because we're either doing some email drip campaigns or we're doing more remarketing. And in that case, you want to give credit all the way through to the application. And that's what this really shows, is you have your awareness, you have your first contact, you have the tour, then you have the close, and those are the 4 most important parts. And it finally gives credit to all of the activities that happen after the tour that we do spend a lot of creative time on, capital, and, just focus, and it rarely gets the attention in any of our other models. So this is my favorite.
All right. Well, Holly and Mia, the two of you have been pioneers in the multifamily industry because you have been among the first to start testing the long-awaited, long overdue multi-touch attribution for multifamily. And Israel, you've had a chance to get some exposure to it as well. Let's just talk a little bit about your experience. We're going to talk a lot more about it actually in San Diego at Apartmentalize. But let me just ask you, first of all, Holly, did you find that most customers have journeyed through more than one source as you expected? Or once you got your hands on this, did you say, oh no, I was wrong the whole time?
Yeah, they're definitely going to more than one source. I think it'll come as no surprise that the property website played a major role in almost every single lease. But there were always other sources that were layered on top of that as well.
Mia, what models did you have a chance to use? Most of those that Holly presented have been available to you now. First touch, last touch, U, W, full path, or linear. What models have you gotten in and played with and taken a look at?
Yeah, I've looked at a few of them. I think it's interesting to note, and we'll go in more detail in San Diego, but the last touch model is kind of intuitive as you'd expect. It's almost 100% website, which means that our marketing is doing what it should be, right? It's forcing them to the website so they can apply online. The first touch winds up with a couple of sources, but those W and the full path models is where it really starts to get interesting to see the different touch points along the way, where they've seen you on a Google ad, and then maybe it takes them 3 months before they even fill out a contact form. So you might not even have realized, how early they were starting to look for their apartment because they didn't do anything. We just saw your ad. So the multi-touch point attribution models are where it starts to get really interesting.
Holly, is it a choose your favorite model scenario, or would you use multiple models really on the same set of data to review your marketing effectiveness? How would you approach this?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand that the mechanics of each model apply to different scenarios. So you really can use the same model or different models on the same set of data depending on the question you're trying to answer. So, we get hit all the time, and we'll dig into this more in the actual presentation in San Diego. But we get asked, where should we be promoting our concessions, or where are people finding us first versus, is this source actually doing anything for us? We don't see them showing up early on in the first touch. And there's a different model that's going to answer each of those questions and help you strategize.
Yeah, I know you guys recently went to a class on kind of mapping your customer journey. And I think it becomes really intriguing when you think about mapping what your customer is thinking about and the kind of information they're looking for throughout their journey, and then figuring out if there are trends on which sources they're hitting at different places of their journey. For instance, you're right, a Google ad might come first and your property website's going to come last. So if you can start to figure out what the customer's thinking about, what do they care about at each step, you might be able to do more than just answer the question, how did they find us? Israel, do you have any extra thoughts on that? Are you excited about being able to answer more than just the how did they find us question?
No, absolutely. In fact, when I was looking at our data, even the linear model, for example, is just probably the easiest to follow because it's in progression. Even looking at those numbers was fascinating to me because you can see, where they come from and where they go to. And to Holly's point, the property website is a big piece of it because It's usually the last stage where, especially if you have online leasing on your website, that's really kind of the completion of the journey and the conversion of the transaction, right? But even just following that progression of, they started in search, they may have gone to an ILS, jumped off the ILS, went someplace else, and then eventually ended up in your website. Even just following that progression, which for many years, we've been trying to do from a tracking perspective, I think is a game changer for our industry in a lot of ways. And so I'm really, really excited kind of where we're going with this. And, we'll learn a lot more when we talk about it in San Diego. And I think it's going to be really, really, really cool.
Let's just roll forward one. Do you guys think you do think this is going to stick, or you think this is going to kind of sweep the industry, or what are you guys thinking about this?
Yeah, there's no going back here. Like I said in the beginning, we are in this evolution, and this next stage of that evolution, I don't see us really going back.
Yeah,
I think that's a very good. I'm sorry, Holly, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think our customers have already evolved and their behavior has evolved. So we can't rely on gut instinct or guesswork anymore. We need to be right there with them.
Yeah. So if there's no going back, our folks on the call today should definitely come see us in San Diego, because you guys are going to share a lot more. But before we wrap up, I just want to ask this, because I think this question is out there. Is this going to be a disruptor in the industry? Is it going to change the way we market? And we can roll forward one slide. Is it going to change the way we market it? Is it going to change the way we buy advertising? Where do you think this could possibly impact the marketing in our industry?
Yeah, I have no doubt this is a disruptor or a game changer in my mind. I can completely see pricing models on how the advertising products we buy can potentially change based on the right now we purchase our advertising sources on an all or nothing basis, right? Whether you buy it or you don't. But with Multitouch, I think there's an opportunity to change that pricing model where, if you're getting, partial attribution or a percentage of attribution, there might be a different price for it as opposed to, what we're working on with now.
Yeah, it's interesting. It remains to be seen. But it'll be interesting to see how this affects all of us, how marketers do the job, how marketers buy advertising, etc. I really want to encourage our guests today to join us in San Diego for this session, because we are going to go so much deeper. We barely scraped the surface today, but we're going to get lessons learned from our panelists, things that they learned the hard way that they'll hand to you so that you can really hit the ground running if and when you eventually start using multi-touch attribution. And we'll also talk about how to really make different decisions other than just where to advertise, but different decisions that help move your customer through the journey and give them what they need each step of the way. And we'll learn how to do that by using these different attribution models. So we hope you'll come and join us, because there's so much more yet to learn. We're on the precipice of something big and exciting. We hope you'll come and be there with us.
I would just like to chime in and say that I want to thank you all. You're such rock star panelists. You really shared a great wealth of information today. It sounds like there's more to come. I'm in love with this topic. I think it's really fascinating. I want to remind everybody that the conference is coming up very quickly. If you're registered, if you're not registered, you can use we'll show you a link where you can do that. If you are registered, put this on your calendar. Hang on one second. Let me just say that this session is going to happen on Friday, June the 15th, and it's at 9 a.m. in the morning. This is one of 70 sessions that make up all the breakout sessions that happen at the conference. So there's a lot of other great content that is of the same caliber. And we hope you find that interesting and compelling. I would like you to put on your calendar that we have a planning webinar coming up on June the 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We'll take the conference and break it up into some big major pieces to sort of break it apart for you. And we'll highlight some not to be missed events and attractions. And we'll help you develop a strategy for making the most out of your attendance. I wanted to say thanks again to our talented team. You guys are totally amazing. This is the link on the screen that you can use to register if you have not registered yet. I want to also let you know that the webinar has been recorded and it'll be posted to the event website. You'll receive an email with a link to the recording within the next few days so that you have access to all the information you enjoyed this afternoon. And finally, I'll say we look forward to seeing you all in San Francisco. In San Diego. Wow.
San Diego.
I go.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.